Hey guys, it's CJ, and today we're going to be taking a look at ARK Invest's new price target for Tesla in 2025. It looks pretty bullish. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to take a look at what they're trying to say, what my opinion of it is. I'm also going to take a look at the actual analysis they did inside of Excel using the Monte Carlo system, and kind of the pros and cons of that, and a little deeper dive into how that works. And yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, so a quick recap. Yeah, last year ARK put out a similar analysis, and on that analysis they basically set it at $1,400 for their base case. So $1,400 was how much they thought, after averaging everything together, that it would hit by the end of 2024. Now they've reevaluated, and we'll get to that, but it's higher. And last year they also thought that the bull case would be about $3,000 a share. There were scenarios, of course, where it goes even higher, but basically their base case was $1,400 and their bull case was $3,000. Okay, so here is the 2025 numbers. Okay, so they used the Monte Carlo model, and I will go into that later. I'll actually pull up the Monte Carlo model so you can understand a little better how that works. But basically, let's get right to the price targets, right? So now they're expecting a value of $3,000 a share, right? Which is pretty crazy because that was their bull case last year. So this is $3,000 now. And I think the stock's selling for, under 700. I don't know what it is today, but so we're talking a pretty substantial gain from there. I suppose more than a 4x from here, 4 or 5x. If it hits it's hard to say. That's actually the base case. Wow, hitting 3 to 4x, pretty wild. The bear case is at 1,500. And they think there's a 25% chance of that happening, and that would still more than double your money from here, which is pretty good in less than 5 years. That means you'd be compounding annually at like over 15%, which is fantastic. And then you have the bull case at 4,000. So we're talking about going from under 700 to 4,000, right? So that's 5 or 6x right there. That's crazy. And potentially higher. So let's take a look here. So they're kind of showing, we'll get to the Monte Carlo system because I think people are taking the example cases a little too literally because they ran thousands of cases. So it's not exactly what it looks like, but what they're saying here, they're showing an example. When they run the system, they run the Monte Carlo that spits out all these different probabilities. This is just one of thousands that came up, and they're just showing it to kind of illustrate it. So we have, in 2020, Tesla produced right at 500,000 cars, and their bear case is that Tesla produces 5 million cars in the next basically 5 years, right? And that may sound crazy alone for a lot of analysts, but the rumor is that Berlin and Austin, these factories are going to be huge and incredibly efficient, and they may make as many as 2 million cars each in just those plants, which is absurd, right? So if that were the case, and you got 2 million coming out of Austin and 2 million coming out of Germany, and 1 million coming out of Shanghai, and 500,000 coming out of Fremont, I mean, you're already there without building new factories. And we know they're building new factories to create the $25,000 Tesla and all these other things. So I absolutely. So basically 5 million is if they ramp up everything they have now and get it completely efficient and stop building anything else. So nothing in India, nothing in Indonesia. So that's incredibly unlikely. It would, I don't know what sort of black swan event would take to cause that. And the bull case in 2025 is 10 million, right? So that's basically doubling probably the factories that they'll have completed in the next year or so. So double it again. I don't know. Yeah, that would be a bull case to me too. I think the answer really would lie somewhere in the middle of those two. So I don't know. They probably have a base case somewhere, but I would guess 7 or 8 million. But who knows? It's Tesla. They're showing like the average selling price, and of course, if you sell more cars, this isn't bad. The price goes down. That means you open up the market to more people, right? So this would be great news. The lower this, the better, especially as we start looking into autonomy and robotaxi, which we'll get to later. And then they're just saying the revenue, right? So 5 million cars, they're talking about, in this example, $234 billion in revenue. So that is a $250 billion in revenue. And by doubling it, you don't get twice as much revenue because your prices are dropping, right? They're also modeling the insurance revenue. I don't fully understand the insurance thing, so I'm not going to get into it. I'm not sure about their model on that or how it works, but Elon says it's going to make a lot of money. I believe him. It may be like he may be making it the way that Warren Buffett did, where you have a pool of money in insurance that isn't paid yet, and you're investing that, and that's making you money. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to get into it because I don't. They're also saying, essentially, in the base case, actually in the bear case, that they start a human-driven ride-hail network. Instead of having robotaxis, the cars drive themselves. They're saying, like, worst case, they start one where humans are driving, but they're able to lower costs because Teslas are incredibly efficient. And then maybe that'll be a way to move them towards autonomy after 2025. I don't know about this. I mean, I don't see Elon doing that. It doesn't seem like his style, because it's sort of like a plan B thing. And he likes, yeah, I just don't see him. I don't see it happening. I either thought about, or I saw it somewhere, and I don't realize I saw it somewhere. So if someone else had this idea, I'm not trying to steal your idea, but I think I thought of this in my own head, that I thought what could be cool if they feel like they need an intermediary step, because there are so many edge cases where the car can just drive itself most of the time, but it gets in a weird predicament. I don't know. It's at the McDonald's drive-thru. It doesn't know what to do. I don't know. I thought it would be cool is if you had people based somewhere in the country who are like in a simulator. Maybe they're using a VR headset, right? And whenever a car gets stuck, it just goes to them and they're able to drive the car. They're able to back it up at the situation, put it back on autopilot, and they're out of there in 30 seconds. I mean, that would be incredibly efficient, more efficient than creating a human-driven network, right? Because you don't need a person in the car the entire time. So you only need them maybe 1 minute, maybe only 1 minute out of the entire day where you need intervention. So why pay someone $15 an hour for 10 hours when you can pay someone 50 cents for 30 seconds of their time? And then they could answer these calls from the cars from all around the world, and you need a few thousand people instead of tens or hundreds of thousands of people. That's an idea I had. I think I had it. We have, insurance revenue, human driven. The big money on this one is they're saying basically that there's a 50% chance that they hit robotaxis. That by 2025 they actually have a robotaxi network, right? If you're not familiar, a robotaxi network is when the cars are driving themselves, right? So you have these cars that will go and take you to work, right? You get an app, come to your house, you jump in the car, and it drives you to work. The car itself is so efficient, it doesn't use gas, right? And the electricity is so cheap that they'll be able to charge half what you're paying for an Uber, and eventually maybe like a tenth. It's going to be kind of ridiculous, and you're not paying a person, right? So if you have a 30-minute trip, you got to pay that guy, say $10. Well, that $10 is gone, and then the gas fees, well, those are cut in half, and then maintenance and the depreciability of the vehicle is insane, because we know that these electric vehicles last for, we think over 1 million miles, right? I think there's a guy that has already has 700,000 kilometers on his Model 3 or something. So they're going insane amount. They don't even need oil changes. They don't need like any maintenance. There's only like 10 or 20 moving parts in the whole engine thing, versus your gasoline powered thing has like 200 parts, and things can easily break, especially after 150,000 miles. Not so with electric. So you can have one of these cars that you stamp out for $25,000 with a lifespan of 10 years, making money every day. It could be insane. So you're talking about here, they're talking about $327 billion in revenue. That's because of the size of the fleet, right? So let's say that they've made 8 million, they're making 8 million cars a year by then. That means they probably have a fleet of 16 million, because they were selling every year before, right? And of that fleet, a certain percentage of those are acting as robotaxis. So that fleet size is going to grow at an alarming rate. So if in 2025 they have a fleet of 16 million and they make 8 million the next year, right? They have a fleet of 24 million. So a massive, so this number will just continue to rise at an insane rate, one that it's really hard to imagine, but an insane rate if this does happen. That's why the stock price will absolutely go through the roof if they nail ride sharing. Okay, they're talking about gross margins and what's happening here. Hold on, 2020. Oh yeah, bear case, bull case, right? So gross margins, they're basically saying these margins will get, higher and higher as they're basically saying the margins will get higher and higher as autonomy takes over, because it's software, right? So you have the margins of building the cars, and say that's something like 20 to 30% that can build a car with those sort of margins, but software is maybe like 90%. You combine them together and you get a really big number. 50% margin for a auto company is pretty wild. Enterprise value, market cap, same thing. Basically just saying the share price, bull case 4,000, blah, blah, blah. This is the same stuff we just went through. Key updates to our model. They pushed it forward a year. They're saying that Tesla's going to be more efficient, and they've proven that. Their CapEx expenditure, it takes them less money to build factories that are capable of building more cars, the machine that builds the machine. So they're getting better and better at that. No other automakers doing this stuff. They're trying to build cars like they build toys. They're just trying to stamp out the whole thing. The whole frame is just stamped. The battery's built into it. You're not adding stuff and bolting things down and welding. They're just trying to get as few pieces as possible. And as you refine that, it gets more and more dependable. Less parts, less things breaking. It's good stuff. It said they add assumptions for a human-driven ride-hail service. I've never heard Elon even mention this. It doesn't sound like him to me. So I know they're pushing it, but I don't get it. And they increased the probability of Tesla achieving autonomous driving, because last year they had the probability at 30%. And I think because of if you haven't watched the videos of the full self-driving beta, it's insane. It is clear to me now that vision-based LiDAR is unnecessary. Vision has solved depth. It knows how far away things are. It doesn't need 3D mapping and giant things spinning in circles on top of the car. It's unnecessary. I'm watching it go identify pedestrians and dogs and roundabouts. It's figuring it all out, and I think it's going to get better and better. And I don't know how soon, but it's not 10 years away like everyone thinks, or 20 years. I think it's less than 5. Okay, so what else we got here? Just basically, it's still going on about the CapEx, the insurance. It's really not really worth talking about. It only makes up roughly $60 of the value of the stock price, and I don't understand it well enough to comment. To be honest, human driven ride hail. Again, I just don't see that happening. So I don't know. Fully autonomous. Fully autonomous ride hail. Yeah, so it's saying last year they had 30% chance. Now it's 50% chance. Oh yeah. The other thing is that, ARC estimates that Tesla's vehicle fleet gives it access to 30 to 40 million miles of data per day, compared to 20 million last year. That sentence right there is a lot more profound than you think, because 30 to 40 million miles is probably all of the data that Google has for their vehicles, Waymo, and like all they've ever gotten, maybe 40 million miles. They actually used to drive them around where I work, and I live in Austin, and there'd be this car, and it'd drive around where I worked in a very uncongested, very simple thing, and it did that for like 6 months. It would just be this car taking the same route forever. I'm not quite sure what I was learning from that, but so if you think about the fact that they have to pay an engineer to sit in a car, and they only have so many cars, and they've only got 30, 40, let's be generous and say they have 50 million miles of data. The estimates that are like Tesla has something like 30 billion miles of data, which is insane. And it's growing at, always saying 30 to 40 million miles a day. And as the fleet gets bigger, it's growing, even more. So, yeah, super, super wild for Tesla's robotaxi, the amount of miles I have. I think another way to look at it that I thought of the other day was, so we think about the amount of miles. So let's say there's a million Teslas on the road right now, and they're each driving 10,000 miles, right? So that would be a lot, 10 billion. I should just do the math. Let's get a calculator. All right, let's say we have, all right, can we see this on the screen? Okay. It disappeared. Okay, let's get a calculator here. Okay, let's say you have there should be about, I think there's over 1 million. Let's just call it 1 million Teslas on the road, right? And they're all gathering data, right? They all send back. So basically when Tesla wants information from a car, it wants to run something in shadow mode. It wants to see, it collects data. So they measure it in miles per data. So they have 1 million cars, and let's say each car is driving, when it's not a pandemic. Well, I'll be conservative anyway. I'll just say 12,000 miles, right? So what are you at, right? So you're at 12 billion. Yeah, that's right. 12 billion miles a year right there of data, right? Just from that 1 year. And we just saw Tesla, we just said that Google maybe has 30 million, so it'll be around here, right? So, but another way to think of it is if you have, let's say you have 1 million cars on the road last year, all collecting data. Or let's go back, let's say you were driving last year, and you drove all year, and you had all these different experiences, right? You had all these different experiences, and I had all these different experiences, and we both drove, right? So you had a year's worth of driving experience, and I had a year's worth of driving experience, but they were different. We both learned different things. I might have almost rear-ended someone because I was doing something and I learned, I shouldn't do that. And maybe something happened to you and you learned whatever. But think of it this way. If there were 1 million Teslas on the road, say this year, that's 1 million years worth of data they're collecting. Think of it that way. So they each all have their individual experiences, which they're sharing with each other. So they have 1 million years worth of data. Each car has a year's worth, right? And then the following year, right, you have the previous 1 million years worth of data, and then the new 1 million years worth of data, and then the new cars you made, right? So you end up with 3 million cars, 3 million years worth of data. And this, I see, when you think of it that way, you realize how far ahead they really are. It's really insane. And now it's just a matter of using Operation Vacation and Dojo or whatever to teach the machines to learn how to do this using machine learning, AI, and neural networks. It's going to be, I think it's going to be wild. We'll see. So I did want to show you, because they put all this, the Monte Carlo thing, over in GitHub, so you could download the Excel file. So I can actually go over there. Okay. And so I really enjoy this because this semester I'm teaching a class for university, and it's literally Excel using statistics. Can you see that? It's literally our textbook. So this is kind of fun to see them doing this. Although I will say, it seems over the top and a little unnecessary, in my opinion. But I'll show it to you and try to make some sense of it. But basically, okay, so they have the valuations here. Let me look at what they do is they set up all these inputs, right? And they're setting up parameters is what they're doing. Okay, they're saying, based on educated guesses, like, if this happens, then what? So they're saying the probability of robotaxi launch is 50%, right? It's not the computer saying that. It's them saying it's 50%. And so all of these things are essentially weighted, right? And they're tied in with complicated formulas. I'll show you, and it's messy, but they're just stating parameters. If this gets to here, then this will probably happen. And if this happens, and it tries to keep stuff sort of in a parameter, but the standard deviations can still fall way outside because they're running simulation with like 40,000 examples. So you get some wild stuff over here and some wild stuff over here, and you're trying to find out in the probabilities what's most probable in the top of the curve, right? So that's sort of what you're doing here. So I'll show you. So here's, so this, I think most people are taking this literally and thinking this was whatever popped up here was what they're saying, but this is just an example. Because if I refresh the page, I will keep getting different numbers. And the reason I keep getting different numbers is because there's a random number generation over here. See this formula, random, right here? So this is generating random numbers, okay? And then that's driving the parameter of this Monte Carlo approach. So, for instance, the robotaxi, right? If I keep hitting random numbers, I should get a 50% chance that this pops up 0 or 50, right? And I'll do it F9. See, it's just going to go back and forth, a 50% chance. And what's happening is, you can see by the formula of here, if M17, which is this number, 0.46, is less than Monte Carlo inputs D15, Monte Carlo inputs D15, 50%. So if this number is less than 0.5, it's going to return 100%. If this number is greater than 0.5, it's going to show 0. So I'll show you. So it's greater than 0.5, it shows 0. It's less than 0.5, it shows 100. Less than 0.5 shows 100. So all of these things are tied in a way that works like that, right? Use a random number, and then that random number decides where it falls in the parameters they set. So the whole thing is kind of overly complicated, but it still works because they did so much research that I think they set good parameters. Anyway, so let me show you. I took some of this data and made another spreadsheet here to take a deeper look at this. Okay, so this the example they gave us was they used 5,000 of these inputs. They did a Monte Carlo, and they brought 5,000 different results. And I wanted to kind of show you. So here's all the 5,000. And you get really wild numbers, outliers, right? So I ran them, and so I ran here's the max, for instance, max gross margin. The highest one in this entire list hit 80% max gross margin, which would be insane, selling cars and everything and getting gross margin at 80%. And a minimum of 20%, which is like half what they're getting now. So that would be crazy too. Things like 90% of all the Teslas being in the fleet, I don't know, that seems pretty wild. This super wild, right? So the max, so I don't think Tesla by 2025 is going to sell 117 million cars. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that's not the case. And they're not going to sell 1.4 million either, since they'll be there by 2022. So you get these weird outliers, bunch of weird stuff like that. But I did break it down in a couple different ways that you can look at it, right? So you have, I got the percentiles of all of the stock price numbers, so you can see how it falls, right? So it's the percentile of these. So this is the the fifth percentile, right? And so basically, you can look at it this way. There's, according to their numbers, there's a 95% chance that Tesla by 2025 will hit $820 or higher, right? There's a 75% chance, which is also that's their base case, because that's the first quartile, is there's a 75% chance Tesla's going to hit 1,600. That's over double where it is now. 75% chance it's going to hit 1,600 or higher by 2025. 50% chance it hits 2,700. They wrote 3,000. In another one of their calculations on this number, they used the average instead of the median. I'm not sure why. I use the median. There's the average. The middle's at 3,000. So maybe they just met it in the middle between those two. There's a 25% chance you hit 4,000. It's exactly what they said. That's the third quartile. And then you can keep going up. According to their model, there's a 20% chance it's 4,500, a 15% chance it hits 5,000, a 1 in 10 chance it hits almost 6,000. So that is what it is. I put that in chart form. And if that didn't make sense, let me try to, maybe I can just draw it. Let's see, draw. Okay, so this basically a, how do I think about it? Let me make this pen a little bigger. So it's just sort of like a, like a bell curve. It's going to be skewed a little bit to the left here. Hold on. Let's see. It's going to be like that sort of curve, right? So so what you have this is like all of these numbers. Say these are all the stock prices, okay? And the median, the 50 percentile, which is 2,700, is right here, okay? So that's 20, that's just terrible. 2,700, I cannot do this with a mouse. That's 2,700 right there. And then we have the quartiles, right? So that's going to be 1,600 and 4,000 basically right here. 1594. There's the median, and there's the 75th. So we're going to say 1,600 and 4,000. So this will be 1,600. And this will be 4,000. Well, my fan is kicking on over here. Hopefully y'all can't hear that too much on my computer. Okay, 1,600, 2,700, and 4,000. So basically what it means is we have all these 5,000 different stock prices, right, that are possible. Most of them obviously fall in here, right? So what it's saying is, you know, there's a 25% chance, right? The stock is going to fall somewhere in here, and a 75% chance it's going to fall somewhere in here, right? That's a way to look at it. So 1,600, there's a 75% chance you're going to fall between here and here, and a 25% chance that it's going to be under 1,600. Same thing over here. This is how these are all falling. So it's 2,700. There's a 50% chance it's going to fall somewhere to the left, you know, of here, and a 50% chance it's here, somewhere to the right of here. And then you go to like the 4,000. Okay, there's a 25% chance that it's going to fall to the right of here or higher, right? And 75% it's here or lower. And if you keep going down it, right, it's going to be like a 5,000%. I mean, a $5,000, and there'll be like a 15% chance, and it'll get crazy. It goes all the way up to like 20,000 or something, and there's like a 1% chance all the way down there. But that's basically how it works. So that's the Monte Carlo system. That was probably more information than you needed about it. But basically, I think the inputs going into it are good. The system, it probably is unnecessary. You could just kind of use those same things you think are going to happen, and plug in where you think it's going with like 5 or 6 things and average those together. I don't know why you need 40,000 to do this, but it's done. It's not that crazy. But yeah, so that's it. It's $3,000 base case in 2025. Bull case, 25% chance it goes to 4,000, and even the bear case, you double your money. So I don't know. We'll see. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.